how to basically communicate to your wingman when it's time to do something in set, when it's time to join the set, etc. A good wingman should know when to join the set. And if not, you should work on teaching him that. In fact, if you have to, like, have him like go watch other sets, and then you just watch with him and identify the hook point. Be like, okay, do you see that right there? That's where it's hooked. And that's really important because that's when you want the wingman coming in is when it's hooked, as opposed to when it's kind of still lukewarm. So even like just watch conversations and just be like, is that hooked? Is that not hooked? Right? And so they get that distinction. If you want to have signals with your wingman, I guess you can. Like you could have like a little like you like put your hand in a certain position or something like that, and that means come in. I suppose that works. Actually, that's not a bad idea. In fact, I fully am on board with that. I've never done that. Because I'm never really worried about it, but I actually think something like that could be a decent idea to have some sort of way of communicating. The biggest thing with your wingman is just have some sort of understanding ahead of time of what the purpose of your winging relationship is and what you're trying to get out of it, and then debrief the sets afterwards. If you like what your wingman did in a set, tell him, and he'll do it again next time probably. And if you don't like what he did, then tell him that and actually give him that critique. I'm down here with a guy in Australia who I might end up hiring on as an instructor assistant, who has a pretty good game. But 2 sets yesterday, he actually like kind of fucked my set over by winging. One of them you guys are actually going to see because I made the most recent Mission Impossible video, and in the middle of the video, this girl walked by and actually picked her up on the video. So there's a little bit of infield footage in the video. But you also hear on that video, he jumps in and he starts talking, and I actually don't like what he did. I think he actually like didn't help with the momentum of the set. And then he did the same thing another time on another set, like a few minutes later, where I wasn't videoing. And so the first time I just kind of let it go, but the second time I actually stopped him and I was like, dude, like what the fuck was that? Like don't do that shit. Like if I'm rolling, if I'm about to, because what had happened was. It was a point where I was about to escalate the interaction. I was trying to go for a commitment. I was basically asking for compliance from the girl. And right at the moment when she was going to comply, he jumped in and said something, which just kills the opportunity for her to comply, which is really stupid, right? It's just really, really, really ineffective for game because that's the key moment when I can really get something from her and I can get it to go somewhere. And then he jumps in and like says something conversational and sets me back to square one, and I have to rebuild all the tension, right? A lot of times, you can use tension, you can use silence to your advantage, but a guy who's not quite as experienced, or a guy who just like isn't involved in the set but would like to be, when they sense that tension, when they sense that silence, there's natural inclination to fill that silence in order to either make it less awkward or B, to become a participant in the set because they feel like they finally have a moment where they could jump in. And that's the worst thing that they could possibly do because it kills the tension of the set. And so, a lot of wingmen do that. And so a lot of wingmen, they either will step on your toes and fuck up your set, or it'll appear like they're trying to steal your girls, which they may or may not actually be trying to do. But you need to communicate, right? So yes, it kind of fucked up that one set, but then I talked to him afterwards and like, look, don't do that, right? Here's what was going on. Please don't do that. And by breaking it down to him, then next time, hopefully that won't happen. And I think he's smart enough to understand. He has a pretty good game, like I said. So I think he'll probably get that. Right, but the biggest thing with the winging relationship is communication. Whether it be hand signals during the set, sure, why not? Or if it's before and after the set, which is what I've always done, that's fine too. Just make sure that you have that relationship. Also, you can be a lot more overt than you might think in sets. Like a lot of times, I'll just say switch in a set, or I'll just be like, I'll just grab my wingman, like grab him, pull him over, and switch places, and we'll just switch girls. Or especially if he comes in on the wrong girl. Like I don't know why. Wingmen almost always come in on like the wrong girl, and I think it's a worm into the pool phenomenon. Like if you're doing well, if you've chosen the target, usually you seem to be doing better with the target, and so naturally, instinctively, they'll perceive her as the more friendly girl, and so naturally, instinctively, they'll gravitate towards her, which is the opposite of what they should be doing. As a wingman, you should be doing the opposite. As a wingman, you should be jumping in on the girl that's giving your friend the worst time, right? You should be jumping on the grenade. You should be taking the bullet for your friend and not trying to like, jump in on the one that's already being nice to him. So don't do that either, right? Obviously, like your friend, the target's going to be the hot one, and or the one that he's liking more. So don't jump in on and steal your boy's target. That's unrelated, I guess, to helping your wingman, but it's just general good wingman advice. But yeah, the biggest thing in wingman in a wingman relationship is communication. I just got another question here. It said you should not critique your wingman. You should be supportive and understanding. Am I right? Thank you. Yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, obviously, like, you guys should be friends and you should have fun together, and that should be the emphasis, is on creating a positive vibe and creating like camaraderie, and the wingman should be more important than the girl to you. But at the same time, like, I mean, he's a man, right? He's a grown man. He can take some constructive criticism, and if he's doing something wrong, you do need to let him know. So it's a fine balance. Yes, if you can let him know in a positive way, absolutely, sure. But it's just like with anybody else. If someone steps on your toe or someone does something that you're not that into or that isn't helping you out or whatever, feel free to actually correct it and get your way, right? And that's another thing that's going to be coming out in a video pretty soon as well, for me. I have a whole video about where I got this, but also about like standing up to people and not being intimidated, that sort of thing. And so, yeah, on the one level, yes, you want to keep a positive vibe with your wingman, but on the other level, you also really, really do want to get things sorted out. If there's an issue that comes up, you need to be able to address that. You need to be able to deal with it, and he needs to be man enough to deal with it too. A great technique, by the way, for that, not really related to any of these topics, but good technique for life, good social skills technique. It's a thing called a feedback sandwich. We learned this in NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, in order to give someone critique. If you do a feedback sandwich, they tend to receive it much better. Also learned it in improvisational comedy. The good improv teachers, they would always do a feedback sandwich because a lot of times their critique is very harsh, and it's a critique of your creative work, so it can be taken very personally. So the way that they do it is they couch it by doing, like, they say a positive thing, and then they say the critique, and then they say another positive thing. So for example, say in an improv scene, they'd be like, okay, so this is good. You took a lot of risks in that scene. You really stretched your boundaries. Now, what you did there with using this particular thing, that really violates the idea of the game of the scene, so you don't want to da-da-da-da-da-da. But yeah, good job. I like that you're taking risks. I like that you're trying new things. That's how you're going to get good. Does that make sense? So you couch it in a positive light, but then you still give the feedback. So like with the wingman, say for example, the issue I'm talking about with my wingman, which by the way, I didn't feedback sandwich him, I just yelled at him because he's a strong enough person that he can deal with that. But maybe even better would have been if I had feedback sandwiched him. And so a feedback sandwich for that would be like, I love that you're being proactive and jumped in my set. That's awesome. Like, we're going to have such a good time winging together because we just have that, like, irreverent vibe. So that's awesome. Now, one thing you might want to be aware of, in my particular style of game, I like to leave a lot of silences. So when I'm leaving a silence, a lot of times I actually want the girl to jump on that. And I know it's really, really natural because, like, if you're trying to, like, maintain the social vibe, it's really natural to jump in and, like, eliminate the silences. And for a lot of people that would help. But for my particular style of game, the silences are actually the most important moments. So please don't jump on my silences. It'll actually really help my game. But yeah, I love that you're being proactive. I love that you're jumping in. And I love that you actually, like, a lot of guys go silent when I talk. I love that you actually don't do that. I love that you actually have enough, like, belief in yourself to jump into my set instead of being a spectator. So that's really awesome, right? So that'd be a way to give the feedback where it's going to make the guy feel really good. And everything I said was genuine too. Like, it is cool that he'll jump in. A lot of guys do go silent on my set. That's all totally accurate, honest information. But by couching it that way, by saying positive feedback, positive, you're very, very likely for him to actually take the feedback to heart. You're very, very likely for him to actually digest the feedback as opposed to just like getting offended by it or thinking that you're attacking him with the feedback. So that's another good way to get it across. It's something we do with students sometimes too. Again, I'll do that more the more someone needs it. If someone, I feel like it's like an issue that they'll take personally, or if I feel like they're kind of in a fragile state or they just need that, then I'll do that more to the point. With another instructor, just be like, what the fuck was that? And maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should still feedback sandwich an instructor too. But I just feel like they don't need it. You know what I mean? There's not really that need because they're a strong enough person and they definitely can handle their stuff. But even so, even with them, even if it's not necessary, it's still probably a good way to go because it will just be received better. It will be received in a more positive light. So I actually think it's a good idea in general.